How's it going? My name is Greg Lehman. I'm here with my guest, Monica Prince, which is actually on this side as I'm recording. How's it going?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is an honor, and we met, a very short time ago, but I had an absolute blast meeting you. Really, really glad that we could get together today.
Of course. LA and AWP always feel like a fever dream, but it was fabulous. I had a good time. So it worked out. It was great.
Outstanding. Alrighty. So, jumping right into it, what is exciting you most about poetry at the moment?
I really appreciate that there are so many writers and poets who are generating as much as humanly possible. I'm in a poetry challenge right now with like 40 other people, and you just write a poem every day for July. And you get one day off because July has 31 days and not 30, as is typical National Poetry Month energy. So I am like writing these ridiculous poems, but the whole emphasis is like you just have to put something on the page and then post it in this cute little chat that we're maintaining across multiple continents. And it's a lot of fun. Like it's a lot of fun. So I think what I'm excited about is the sheer number of people who are just creating poetry, just trying to like use it and make it as much as humanly possible. And so I think that's what I'm most excited about. Just the fact that like people just want more of it in the world. I love that. It makes me happy.
Likewise. Love that
Yeah.
answer. Which poets were the most impactful in getting you to become a poet?
I know for the first answer I have to give is Ntozake Shange. She passed away in 2018, but she wrote for Color Girls Who Considered Suicide When the Rainbow's Enough, which is like a Broadway award-winning show. It's a choreopoem, which is a choreographed series of poems, includes dance, music, live art, all kinds of fabulous performance media together, thrown on stage like a play. And I read that when I was 18, and I'd been writing slam poetry for maybe 3 or 4 years at that point, but it wasn't good. So, but then I read that book and it like changed my whole life. And it's so she's like one of the main reasons I'm a poet. And then I also have to say my sister is one of the reasons I'm a poet because she was writing poetry and then she switched to fiction. And I was like, I can't write fiction anymore because I'm not very good at it. So I switched to poetry. So here we are, years and years later. But I also know that one of my favorite poets ever is Nikki Giovanni, who also passed away recently. It makes me very sad. I have a fantastic photo with her from 2020, like 2 months before lockdown, when she came to visit our area, and it's just delightful because I am stoked to see her, and she's just this lovely, generous human, and I think most poets should be like that because generosity is important. So yeah, I think it's pretty much every I've read a lot of poets and I've met a lot of poets, and I'm just constantly grateful that I'm in company of poets. And those two women for sure though, and my sister who've like made me a poet. Yeah.
Outstanding. I have to pull that thread a little bit. Did Nikki say anything impactful when you met her?
She's actually, yeah, I have three lines written down. One, I told her that her poem Resignation got me to break up with my boyfriend in college because it's like they're not technically related, but I remember reading the poem and then very shortly after breaking up with him. And the poem itself is it's like it has anaphora in it, so it keeps repeating the phrase "I love you because." And one of the lines is "I love you because I take my coffee black." And I just remember thinking, like, how simple that is and how it has nothing to do with the other person. And I was like, I like my coffee not black, like obscene amounts of sugar and cream. At least I used to. I don't drink coffee anymore. And my boyfriend at the time drank his coffee black. And there was just like something about that that just made me need to break up with him. It was like this moment, and because it illuminated a bunch of other stuff that was clearly wrong in our relationship. But she, I told her that, and she says, "You know what? Poetry can make you do a lot of excellent things." And then later, she said that she recommends A Good Sex Life, which made me laugh hysterically, and that she thinks that the world is already full of such horrible things. You have to carve out this much joy just for you. She's fantastic. I miss her every single day.
Oh man, yeah. I'll try to move on. What gems? Yeah, astonishing. Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, of course.
If you could change something about how culture views poetry today, what would it be?
Great question. I think I would ban the teaching of Shakespeare as everyone's first poet. Because all of my first year and second year students in college hate poetry when they show up to campus because the first poet they ever learned was Shakespeare and his very complicated sonnets. And it can't that can't be everyone's first introduction. I know, like, as teachers, we're like, but this is incredible. Like, it's brilliant, it's beautiful, and all those things are true. But as, like, 11-year-olds, it's boring and it's hard to understand. And so I would eliminate the use of Shakespeare as the first poet that people learn when they're in elementary and middle and high school, because it really does create this hatred of poetry that I then spend the next 4 years in college fighting them on. And so to avoid that thing, I would say that, because Shakespeare is an incredible writer and we have a lot to learn from the work that he did. But also there are so many other poets who are more accessible at that particular age that we could teach students about first before we show them how complicated and intense poetry can become. I think whenever I teach poetry, the very first type of poem that I teach is a sestina, and it's very complicated form, right? But it's just a poem that loops words over and over and over again. And people say next to blank verse, it's one of the poems that its structure sounds like speech, right? Because you repeat yourself over and over and over again. And which is just how we all talk, right? And so because of that, it's actually an easier form to introduce students to because they already talk the way that they write. And so when they see that they're allowed to do it on purpose, it actually opens something inside of them that teaches them how to engage with literature in a new way. And so I would encourage every teacher who has to teach English to people between the ages of 10 and 18 to teach them slam poetry first, because it's much more fun, and then to teach them entertaining forms that are fun to do. Like, they're hard enough, but they're possible to do. Like, sonnets are very difficult if you follow them accurately, right? With all the, what's it called? With all the meter and the rhyming and all that. But, like, they're not impossible. It just takes longer than one would like to write a poem. So I think I would just want people to learn about different poets before Shakespeare, because I feel like Shakespeare intimidates everybody, and then Edgar Allan Poe intimidates everyone, and then Robert Frost intimidates everyone. And it's just like, there are all these fantastic slam poets who are intimidating in the sense that they memorize their poems, but are also significantly more accessible in their work, especially students who are the same age as the students who are being taught. So yeah, those are my feelings. Those are my feelings about it all.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And yeah, what I'll add to that, I guess, is just the common denominator in those three, pillars that you just named,
Mhm.
white males.
Dead white men specifically.
So appreciate the variety that you're pushing.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, okay, so now word association. You ready to rock? 10 more.
Okay. All right. I haven't done this in a long time. So use this. What am I doing exactly?
Just say a word, and then first word that comes to mind, just let it rip.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Camping.
No.
Politics.
Anger.
Breakfast.
Yeah, I'd go with lunch. Yeah, definitely lunch.
Okay, there you go. Blue.
Purple.
Pages.
Matam. He's a poet.
What's the name?
Pages Matam is a poet.
Okay. TikTok.
Oh, complicated.
Poetry.
Mine.
Slam.
Dunk.
Forest.
Say again.
Forest.
Trees.
And hope.
Please.
Please.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. And a recent line of poetry or lines of poetry that you found remarkable.
I'm not reading as much as I'm supposed to, mostly because I've spent most of this summer playing The Sims. But I think the line I always come back to is by Matthew Dickman, actually, and it's "I hope you do not suffer" from his poem Love. It is one of the first poems I ever memorized in college, and that's part of the last like 8 lines of the poem. It's the very last line of the poem is "I hope you do not suffer," and I think that that's a healthy reminder for us all that like suffering is inevitable, but there's someone out there who doesn't want that for you. And so those are the people who you want in your life. That's one of my favorite lines of poetry ever. Um, but then recent, someone who's like not a white man. Uh, this is the problem when you don't read as frequently. Um, oh, Aishin Hutchinson has a line in his book, The House of Lords and Commons, came out in like 2017. And the line is, "The blood pools at the body's back." And it's a horrifying image at first, but like I just like the idea of someone lying down and like there's that one moment when you're asleep where your vertebrae just relaxes and you actually grow slightly taller because you're not crunched into yourself as we are when we walk around. And there's this moment like while we're sleeping where our body is completely relaxed and nothing is terrorizing us for 8.5 minutes. And so I love that image of the blood pools at the body's back because it's more about relaxation than gore. And I feel like we need a little peace sometimes. And there's not a lot of peace in our lives. And I feel like knowing that there is a moment at some point while we're asleep where our entire body is completely relaxed. And that's just a really beautiful thing to think about.
It really is. Thank you so much.
Of
Um,
course.
and then, yeah, please share, about, your recent work and where people can look to get more Monica Prince in their lives.
I mean, Monica Prince is very fun. So come and be my friend. I have to talk about my book. It's called Roadmap. It came out in 2023. It's a choreopoem that focuses on a black man named Dorian, who learns that his most likely cause of death will be homicide because according to the CDC, that's the most likely cause of death for black men aged 15 to 34. And so he spends the rest of the show trying to figure out if it's nature or nurture that guarantees this fate and if he can avoid it. And so it's a really intense show. There's lots of sadness in the show. But they do the Cupid shuffle at one point, and that's very nice. And there's a couple songs in there. Two, two songs. You get to sing Ring Around the Rosie, which is nice. And that's nice. And then they have a prison song that I actually wrote. It's my prison song. I'm very proud of that song. So it's good stuff. I think that there's just something quite lovely about when you're injecting performance into writing, you get to include the sort of levity that I think is required when you're using an entire book form as your art. Because I write a lot of like what people would consider very sad poems, um, but I don't think they're all sad because there are ones that are very sad that I don't even perform anymore because they make me so sad. But I think that the inclusion of performance allows you to inject levity because I don't write like funny poems. I think I've written one funny poem. I'm funny in context, not on the paper. That's the one thing. And so, of course, like buy my book. Don't forget to review it. And it's available at Santa Fe Writers Project and Amazon and Bookshop and Midtown Scholar and pretty much every bookstore that carries a book. And what's the other thing? What else? Oh, you can hang out with me at monicaprince.com. I'm delightful. It's filled with pictures of my fabulousness. And you can read all my recent work is on there. And yeah, yeah, yeah.
Outstanding. And for people who might not be familiar, what you just defined as choreopoetry, Do you think that fits well as a definition of what you would consider choreo poetry to be?
All of my pretty much the last three books I've published, well, one is coming out in January. Everyone get very excited. It's called Force, a choreopoem. But these last three, they are all choreopoems because, and the way that defines it, well, let's see if you can even see this. Let's see if you can see it. Um, the thing that tells you that it's a choreopoem, right, is it's got stage directions on one side and like the names on the other side. So it's like an actual poem, right? But then they tell you to do stuff. Hold on. And different people talk and all that good stuff. So that's what really like defines the choreopoem, right? Is that as a genre on the page is the inclusion of stage directions, characters have names and costumes and motivations. There's even in the beginning of the book, there's a dramatis personae, which like shows you who is who throughout the book and what their motivation is within the context of the show. Uh, and that's how you engage with it when it's on the page. Because I think it'd be really hard sometimes for people to see it on stage and then compare it to the physical version. And so, yeah, so yeah, it's lovely. It's lots of fun. There's always dancing in my choreo poems, and there's always at least one line that is either paraphrased or written in honor of Ntozake Shange because she's the best. So if you can find it, you get points, and you can't cheat by looking at the acknowledgments. It's not fair. So
Love it, love it. And then just to bookend all this, if you could share a little bit about the Santa Fe project.
oh, cool. Of course. So Santa Fe Writers Project is a global independent press that has been running since 1998. It is run by our fearless leader, Andrew Gifford. We started in Santa Fe, born and raised in Santa Fe, but then we grew up and we moved to the big city, which is, DC. And so now it's based out of DC. We didn't want to change the name because Santa Fe Writers Project is Santa Fe is really important to the press as itself. So there's that. We publish between 6 and 12 books a year, and we're currently running a contest. I feel like I have to say this. We're currently running a contest. It's our literary awards program. Our judge is Deesha Philyaw, the author of The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. If you haven't read it, you have to read it immediately before it becomes a mini series, because that's what's happening with it right now, which is super exciting. Anyway, Deesha's amazing. She lives in Mississippi or something now. She used to live in Pittsburgh. Anyway, she's our judge, and it's a prose contest, so fiction and nonfiction. And it runs until September 15th. It's either the 1st or the 15th. I have to check it out. It's sfwp.com, and they'll tell you what day that it actually ends. And yeah, we read every submission. And every submission receives feedback. And so it might take like between 6 and 9 months after the contest is like completed, but you will receive feedback on your manuscripts. So that's really exciting. What's the last thing that has to do with that? Oh, the winner wins $1,500 and publication through Santa Fe Writers Project and 25 author copies. And then you get to have a fun party at AWP with us. And we just scream about your book for the entire week, which is what I did for all of the authors at AWP. I'm like the events person. I just show up to all the events and yell about the books, and it's great. So yeah, and it's fantastic. And we're so excited. There's all these different books coming out this year. And I couldn't even list them all for you. There's so many, but it's very exciting. And Santa Fe Writers Project is a spectacular press, and we hope that you will check them out. It's just sfwp.com.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, and I'll share the links out and everything. And Monica, always a delight. Thank you so much for your support and for everything you do. It means a lot.
Of course, you're a star, Greg. So glad to be here.
All right. Later.